Real estate, I think, was just in my bones. So started acquiring two-family homes in Staten Island, just kept that rolling, built up a $10 million real estate portfolio by myself. I was always very long-term with real estate, but to know that I could also make short-term money in real estate, opening it up to making sure that I'm doing both. And I think some people, they fall apart a little bit in real estate because it is slow, so they start doing something else that has nothing to do with real estate.
18-year-old self, knowing what you know now, is there anything you'd do differently?
Accelerate what I did quicker. Think bigger, faster.
Think bigger, faster. Yeah.
You could start with nothing and in 5 years have 1,000 units, but it does have to be a progress.
And you have to do the work. Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Cleef, and I am thrilled you're here. We're going to have an awesome conversation today with a gentleman named Christopher Stout. And he's got hundreds of doors in the multifamily space. He's a builder, and really enjoyed our pre-conversation here. So we're going to have some fun today. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks. Yeah, Rod, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so why don't you, let's start with your background a little bit.
Sure.
Just give us an idea of who you are, where you came from, and we'll start there. Huh?
Yeah, so basically I started in real estate in my mid-20s. I'm 41 now. Mm-hmm. And I started all through a marketeer ad. Oh. So as a marketeer ad, I'll come and repair your home. And any small job you may have, no job too big or too small, I'll come and do it. So it started basically with a cabinet repair. I remember it like it was yesterday. Huh. Showed up, the job needed probably nothing more than, a screw gun.
So
and maybe
you
a hammer.
ran the ad and you showed up at somebody's house to make a repair.
That's right.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's where it all started.
Okay.
Where I was like, I'm going to start fixing stuff.
Okay. So
I was always very good at fixing things. It's just like, I can't play sports to save my life. But fixing stuff, it just works in my head. I guess like mechanically inclined. So showed up to the person's house. Yeah, I'll fix your cabinet door, $250. Sure. Did it, fixed it, exchanged. And then the ad was paid for the month. So everything else was gravy. Mm-hmm. Accelerated from there, started renovating kitchens and bathrooms. And from that point, just started doing larger and larger projects in the residential space, where eventually I got to the point where I could custom home build. I always wanted to be known as a builder. When I was younger, I wanted to be a builder. So real estate, I think, was just in my bones. And from that point, I started buying apartments. So started buying two-family homes. Two-family in New York City is very common. Mm-hmm. 2, 3, 4-family homes are very common. A lot of, I'd say majority, as you get into the bigger boroughs, I was in Staten Island. Mm-hmm. You start getting into bigger boroughs, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx, majority of the buildings are investment properties. They're not owned by permanent people, not single-family homes. Mm-hmm. So started acquiring two-family homes in Staten Island, just kept that rolling. Basically built that whole system up for 10 years. The custom home building turned into spec building. So started building spec to sell instead of custom home. Mm-hmm. Custom home, building custom homes is a great way to get started in building because you don't need any money. Mm. People are fronting the cash to build their home. Mm-hmm. So
spec's a little more dangerous.
Spec's dangerous for sure. Spec's much less dangerous in New York City. Mm. The blue states are not good for owning rentals. Right. I could back that up.
Right.
But they're usually very good for
sales
and building one and two family homes.
So the question is, did you get cake from that cake shop that Whoopi Goldberg's going to get sued from?
No. What happened there?
You hear about that?
No.
Oh, there's some cake shop in Staten Island that refused to make her a cake or something. It's been all over the news. And
when did this happen?
Like in the last couple of days.
Really? I didn't see that. In Staten Island?
Yeah.
Staten Island. Press.
Oh, yeah. So,
people from Staten Island love when Staten Island shows up in the news.
Yeah.
You never hear.
They had like a whole lineup of the mayor and other people there talking about what a travesty it was that Whoopi. Did I say Oprah? I meant Whoopi.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Yeah. Well, anyway, she trashed this bakery, and now they're talking about lawsuit. Anyway, I interrupted you. Please
no, that's great. No, Staten Island people, we feel like in Staten Island it's a forgotten borough.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone knows Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Bronx, but no one really hears of Staten Island. Mm. So we get some press, good or bad. It's good.
Huh?
Yeah, sure. Right. So started building homes, and there's always typically in areas that the home sales are north of 600,000 or 700,000. There's usually some spread there. There's a lot of parts of the country where you go develop, there's no money to be made because the home is not even worth the construction costs.
Right.
Like you could zero out the land costs and it still didn't make sense.
Right.
So with that being said, the more expensive areas are definitely good to build in, and we were able to build small and tight because it's New York, so the square foot price, you're able to really amplify how much you get for a house.
Nice.
construction costs down, and people pay a lot
So
of
you
money.
use that cash to start investing in other stuff? Is that what you did?
Yeah, so I'm all real estate.
Right.
So personally, my funds, like my stock account is a joke.
Right.
I got
Same.
I have a couple Bitcoin, which actually now is worth something.
It just ramped like in less few. There's like some big thing that just happened. I saw on Fox News about some fund that in Bitcoin that just exploded recently. But anyway.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on Fox News today, literally.
I actually accumulated Bitcoin because of rentals, believe it or not.
Wow. Interesting.
I had some of my tenants in Staten Island pay, up until a couple of years ago, pay through Cash App and Venmo. And you're able to buy Bitcoin through those platforms.
Interesting.
So I had it automatically purchasing Bitcoin.
Interesting.
And I was like, all right, whatever. Like it might sound silly to some, but there in life, there's some times where you have an account that you don't really, you're like, oh yeah,
don't
there's
need the
30
money,
grand
it's
over
there,
there.
right, yeah.
And some people are like 30 grand. Yeah. You will get to a point if you work hard enough that there could be 20 or 30 grand in an account and
Sure.
you're not even paying attention to it.
Right.
So that happened to me with the Venmo and Cash App, where I opened it up, it was like, oh man, we got some money here into Bitcoin. And then here we are. I have 3 Bitcoin. My basis in the Bitcoin is probably 30 or 40 grand.
What's it worth now?
It's got to be
I can't even spell Bitcoin.
300 grand.
300 grand? No
Yeah.
shit. Holy crap. Wow, that's fantastic. Well, maybe I should learn more about it. Every time I get out of my lane, I get my ass handed to me. So
In stocks, I get slaughtered.
I lost 20 grand in the stock market and never looked back there
Yep.
again. Yeah, I stay in my lane now. So you've just been buying small stuff, but you're also, you've got some larger stuff in Arkansas. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, so that went on for 10 years, that cycle.
Okay.
And in 10 years, I look back, and for me, everyone's got different goals in their life, but I look back and I was like, all right, I built up a $10 million real estate portfolio by myself.
In New York.
In New York. And I was like, this is not accelerating fast enough. Lamborghinis are expensive.
Ah, you wanted a Lambo back then.
Yeah, so
okay.
we have
I'll have to show you the picture of the one I wrecked, but anyway, another later.
Do you like cars?
I love cars. Yeah, I had a black Lambo, and some lady pulled right in front of me here in Clark Road in Sarasota, and thank God. I mean, literally, I was probably going about 50, and
Yeah.
those cars turn like they're on rails. And
Yeah.
tore the whole left side of the car off.
Oh.
I slid on the exposed side between 2 poles, like 15 feet past, slid right between these 2 poles.
Yeah.
If I'd have been a split second faster or slower, I'd been crushed in it.
Wow. What
Yeah.
kind of Lambo was it?
It was a Gallardo. Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, black, beautiful. Yeah, it was funny. I'm laying on the backboard to make sure my back wasn't broken
Sure.
or my neck or anything. I mean, all strapped down. And
Yeah.
I told the cop I just bought some weapons. I bought some guns. They were in the.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, good God, please have somebody get them. Otherwise, I'll be here all night writing up paperwork."
Oh, forget it,
And then
yeah.
I'm like, "You're going to write her up for this, right?" He said, "Yeah, driving while old." Yeah. Anyway, I digress. But yeah.
So actually, I'm into my car enthusiasm has increased recently, but
Yeah.
at the time it was boats. I love boats. We own a boat. We've had a boat now for 5 years.
Yeah.
We now have a house similar on the water, boat in
Nice.
the yard. It's awesome.
Nice.
But at the time, my wife had pointed out really sweet boat,
Yeah.
and she was like, "How do you plan on getting that?" And I'm like, "My current path isn't going quick enough. So what are we going to do?" So basically, I took my track record of everything I've done, because I actually was bringing capital on for the spec development, and started syndicating apartments. So now
when did you start doing this?
2021. The first purchase was actually 2022.
And why'd you select Arkansas? Just curious.
So we started in North Carolina.
Okay.
We have 343 units in Fayetteville,
Okay.
North Carolina. And we have 50 units, about to be just about 100 in Decatur, Alabama. So that's outside of Huntsville.
Okay.
And then Northwest Arkansas. We have 60 in Wichita, Kansas, which is right kind of.
Is there a particular asset class that you like? Do you go C class? What do you typically go after?
So our 100% of basically 100% of our focus now is in that Northwest Arkansas corridor.
Right.
We have multifamily, and just because of let me say that again. Just because of the inability to get into the multifamily market for the past year and a half,
Right.
We've started buying other things. We're buying industrial and retail right now
Oh, really? Okay.
in the same spot.
What kind of industrial? Like flex space or something?
Yeah, flex space.
Nice.
Yeah.
and just some strip center
Yeah,
retail?
strip
What you're
center.
talking
We're
about?
actually closing on our strip center in 2.
So back to my
3
question
weeks.
about it. Do you have a type of multifamily that you target? You've got you're spread out a little bit. Do you go after?
I own C. I've owned C. I've owned them all.
Right.
I've owned the A. I've owned the C. And actually, looking back, my C that I've purchased in New York has appreciated significantly quicker, but the problem list is longer.
Right.
Right?
Lot longer usually.
Yeah, a lot longer. So our focus is B.
B. Okay.
Yeah.
So B assets, new, little newer stuff.
Yes.
80s built and plus.
80s
stuff.
built, yeah. We
Okay.
only have 170, 79.
Okay.
So stay in that 80s construction. 80s construction we're basically building the same today as we were in the 80s. If your asset has copper wiring
Yeah.
and copper pipes,
Yeah.
you have a brand new building.
No, absolutely. So, right now that the demographic in the C assets is getting their asses handed to them. I mean, I
Yes.
don't know about you, but I'm single, not super recent, but enough where I'm starting to spend money in the grocery store. I'm like, you got to be kidding me what this stuff costs. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
it's just crazy, and
Forget
gas
it.
and everything. So, let's shift there then. You're done telling us. I mean, so you
Sure, yeah, that's
so
me.
that's
Yeah.
your bio. Got it. So, we just had our election. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the impact of Trump stepping back into office as it relates to our business. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so I'm from New York, so I'm very Democratic,
Right.
and I really wish Kamala got in.
Oh, do you?
No.
I'm sorry, I was about to throw your ass out.
So Staten Island, so New York City is very blue, and if you look
Right.
at Staten Island, it's dark red.
Is it? Okay, that's funny.
100%
Oh,
Trump.
that's
I was
funny.
actually, before eliminating politics from it, like I used to read all Trump's books. Like I
Me
followed
too.
Very,
Yeah, he's
very
got some
strong,
great books. Yeah.
And then the political thing not only do I think he's great, but it just adds a whole level. He puts such a great show on too.
Oh yeah.
So
No,
spectacular.
it's been entertaining. It's been a little stressful. I was a little worried. I just heard Biden today gave long-range missiles to Ukraine to send into Russia. I'm like, really?
my gosh.
Really? I mean, are you
Yeah.
fucking kidding me? Give me
Yeah.
a break.
I know.
I mean, it's so. The military-industrial complex so badly wants to keep things moving. You
Yeah.
know, all that money we send to Ukraine just comes right back to our military-industrial complex. But, I will say this though, I'm very happy with his selections so far. A lot of people aren't, but man, I love Matt Gaetz for the Attorney General. I love Elon and Vivek for that DOJ and Department of Government
Elon
oversight.
is probably one of the most incredible humans
Oh, I know.
alive.
He's one of my heroes.
Oh, my
$3 billion
gosh.
startups. I mean, that space vehicle that they just caught coming back. The tube.
There's no one like
Yeah.
Elon that can make you feel like you're doing nothing.
Oh, I know. Right. Oh,
Yeah.
I know. God, he's
So what is it? It's
what a rock
X,
star.
Tesla,
Yeah.
the Boring Company.
He's got a solar company as well, big solar company as well. He's got the Boring Company. He's got Tesla. He's got SpaceX.
Twitter, X.
He just bought X as well. Yeah, and what's great about that is he eliminated 80% of the personnel, and he's still doing the same work.
That's
and I think
crazy.
and much more profitable.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what why Trump earmarked him for that position, which is just brilliant to me.
Yeah.
And then what's his face for the Department of Health, Kennedy.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if you've seen those memes where they
Love it.
where
Yes.
they show the woman
Yes.
or whatever it was.
The man woman, yeah.
man woman is Department of Health next to Kennedy, all buffed and ripped.
Right, yeah.
Oh God. Anyway,
That
yeah.
stuff, everything he's doing is, there's a lot of things that are broken here, right?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think one of them is the food.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
Oh,
we'll
for
talk
sure.
about real estate, but just putting someone else in charge saying you're going to change the,
Oh,
the chemicals that are allowed to be put into food.
When I go to Europe, I don't have stomach issues. Like when I
Yeah.
eat there, I don't have stuff happen to me like I do here. If I,
Yeah.
even the breads here there's just ingredients here that we shouldn't be eating. But yeah, no, I'm thrilled. Now
We were actually looking at Aiden when we were standing yesterday. My son Aiden's in the room here. Aiden, when we were watching the people walk out of Universal, remember we were making that motion video? What did we notice about everyone walking out? They're
Right.
all big. Some about middle of the country is huge.
Right.
Well, that's a great thing if he starts fixing it. But anyway, back to real estate.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's some other things. I was just actually looking on my phone here. I mean, he's going to cut regulations for development. as well.
Awesome.
That's
cool.
coming up. He's planning to reduce taxes in a big way, and he's bringing back 100% bonus depreciation, which is freaking awesome.
Is that official?
Yeah. Well, that's what he's going to plan to do. And I
Yeah.
mean, he's got the House and the Senate at this point. I think he can pretty much do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
I actually, the regulations with development, you'll find a small part of me that's in favor of it.
Okay.
And
Well, elaborate. Please.
yeah. So barrier to entry is what keeps jobs profitable and keeps the security of the job profitable.
So this is a self-serving statement here.
Oh, absolutely. Of course. Listen, I personally think if everyone votes in the direction that helps them and stops worrying about everybody else, like one of the largest topics that they were talking about in this election, most of the people, it doesn't affect, and everyone's voting based on it. Just vote what matters to you.
Yeah.
Personally, and it should.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. Another thing, yeah.
But if we keep, you go to places like Texas where the regs are lighter, they could build forever, and the jobs are not very profitable. So
right.
Little self-serving, but
yeah.
I also want to own stuff in landlord-friendly states, so it goes
for
back
sure.
and forth.
No, for sure. I tell people, and that's not even political. It's just like, why would you go there? They're overtaxed. They're broke. The regulations are ridiculous. So politics aside, I'd rather go where there's lower hanging fruit, personally.
Right. Sure.
But and he's reducing immigration, obviously, and
the handgun reciprocity.
Yeah.
Carry. Did you see that one?
No.
So, I have I'm licensed to carry a gun in New Jersey. I don't carry it that much, but if I were to carry it, if I go to state lines to New York, I'm technically committing a felony.
Oh, no kidding.
So one of his statements where he's going to sign.
Oh, he's just making nationwide, right?
If you have a carry permit in whatever state you're in,
you're good anyway.
You're good.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I carry here almost all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not right now. I'm in my home here, but
yeah.
And
some guys are nuts. They're like, I carry in my home. Right. What do you carry?
A 9. Yeah, I have a really nice
kind?
9. Yeah, I'll show you my gun collection when we're done here. Yeah, I've got a pretty significant collection. And he's moving away from crime tolerance, obviously.
Love that. That was actually voted in California. Specifically, it was on the ballot.
No kidding.
For increased.
They got rid of that DA there that was like ridiculous. Who he was letting go. I don't remember his name, but yeah.
It all starts in California.
Yeah. Yeah, and then tariffs. He uses tariffs just to keep people in line.
What do you think of it? What do you think of the tariffs?
Well, I think that if they're going to steal manufacturing jobs, like he told, I forgot what country it was that was, I think China was going to start manufacturing in like Mexico or something.
Okay.
At greatly reduced cost, which of course destroys Detroit. And he told them, if you do, there'll be a 300% tariff on any car you try to ship up here.
Right.
Yeah, that's looking out for the United States. I'm sure there's lots of nuances to it, but anyway, we haven't talked about real estate at all. I'm just so thrilled with not having to stress about the election anymore. I'm glad we touched on it. But let me ask you this. I get a lot of listeners that know they want to get into this business, and you just went and did it. They're in the rat race, or they just caught up in fear. They don't want afraid of failure, all this stuff. Speak to them. Speak to somebody that's sitting here listening that knows they need to go do something. They just haven't got off there, and done it.
Yeah. So here's what I always did in order to purchase. When I was ready to buy, this is what I did to make myself confident. Because at the time, I wrote a $100,000 check to buy my first 2-family home in Staten Island. Wow. I did the 25% down, 25% down. And the asset was $400,000. You needed some money to fix it. So you needed a solid $100,000 to get it done. That was my only $100,000.
Wow.
I came up with a goal. I said, I'm going to do everything I can. I told you how I got the money. I was doing repairs on people's homes. And actually, if you're running a small little home improvement business, you could put together $100,000.
Sure.
In not too long a period of time. So I did that, and the way that I was confident going into it, because sure, when you're doing something you've never done before, you're nervous about doing
scary,
it.
Sure.
The way I did it is I sat on Zillow for 2 to 3 hours a day. So at the time, and actually I'm saying Zillow. It's now would be Zillow. At the time, it was the MLS.
Right.
So Staten Island at the time, and there was a period of time where you couldn't access MLS unless you were an agent.
Right.
I never took the test. I was never an agent.
Oh.
Then basically when I started buying, and 15 years ago, there was a public access to
there was
the
wow.
MLS. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, you know what I always did was I hired a broker, and I set up a real estate company where I owned part of the real estate company and he owned part of it. And our deal was any deals that I bring in, I get all the commission, number one, and I get full access to the MLS. So I basically paid him like $300 a month, and yeah, that's how I did it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Worked
you
great. Did it
just
for
to get
years.
access.
Just to get access. Did it for years.
It's crazy what we had to do to get access to what you could just flip
Right.
open now.
Right.
I mean, any vacation or anywhere I go now, I'm like, oh, look at that house.
Right.
I wonder how much it is.
Right.
So, so at the time, I would log on to the public portal of MLS, and I would just spend 3 hours a day there, just doing numbers,
Doing homework, just having fun,
and it gets to the point where two things will happen. You are so confident in the numbers, you're like, this can't go bad.
Right.
We can't make a bad decision here. At the time, I was good enough to know construction, at least to the level of a two-family that I know, and I actually. Which in hindsight, it's what I had to do, but it did not make sense for me to be the one person who did all the renovations on 2 units. I hired nobody. 100% of my own labor.
So you
and
did it all
material.
yourself on the first one. Got
Yes.
it. Yeah, everybody does. I remember putting lye in a crawl space because this house I bought had cats. Bad. It stunk. Piss smell. But yeah.
Yeah, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
And then put tenants in, and like, what can go wrong here? Once you get to that point, you're like, I'll write a check for whatever.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is, and I can't relate with this, but I think what happens to people is they'll spend a half hour on Zillow or the access, and then they'll go back to Instagram.
They dabble. Yeah, they dabble. No, and I tell people, this isn't a get rich quick thing. It's a become super freaking wealthy over time thing. But you can't be a dabbler. Dabblers get crushed.
You got to go all in.
You got to go all in. You got to spend the time. So I like to ask this question sometimes. Talk about I call them seminars. I lost $50 million in 2008 and 9. That was a seminar. I lost 800 houses, apartment complexes. It was a shit show. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I call them seminars. They're failures. They're learning.
I saw a video of yours about this.
Yeah. So talk about a seminar you had. Talk about when you got your ass handed to you, and a doozy. And maybe there's a lesson in it as well.
So
we all have tons of them, right?
Yeah. So my first doozy was recently, actually.
Oh wow.
We were raising money to purchase this, which actually, in hindsight, we absolutely should have purchased it.
Okay.
As interest rates were climbing, we went into contract on a deal. Okay. Smaller deal in Rogers, Arkansas. Great market.
Great.
Something that we messed up on. We wanted the asset so bad, $100,000 hard money deposit. Wired the money. Fine. Went there, and there was a disconnect. 2-bedroom, 1-bath. We thought it was 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Oh. So the deal was arguably we underwrote the deal, and it had to perform as we said. And taking that 1 bathroom away basically took like $60 off a month per apartment. Yeah. It was 48 units. It messed up the underwriting.
Sure.
We raised the money for it already. And there was basically the problem is we went in, I guess it's not a problem, but it was a direct to seller deal. So there's no representations, no warranties.
Okay.
So there was no broker that misrepresented the property.
Right.
We went in, we found the seller, we called them, we followed up with them, we got the deal on the contract.
Wow.
Everywhere online, CoStar everywhere, 2-bed, 2-bath units.
Wow.
When I went there, it wasn't until after I wired the hard money deposit we were going back, and I'm like, the rent, something doesn't seem right here.
Right.
The rents are wrong. And we're like, how many bathrooms were there when you were there? I'm like, 1. Like, there's a problem.
Wow.
It was short a bathroom across all units. So we got the loan. We did everything.
You're ready to go.
I had to pull out like 2 weeks before closing.
You pulled out.
It cost me $170,000.
Now you just said you wish you'd stayed in?
Yes, because we started this part of our business where we purchase townhome communities. This was a townhome community, and sell them off individually.
You could have sold it.
Could have sold it individually.
Ah, wow.
One silly idea.
Yeah.
So
that's a good one.
Yeah.
So what's the lesson? The lesson is, before you wired the money, you probably should have been on a plane and taken a quick look.
Yes. Yeah. Due diligence. We messed up in due diligence.
Yeah.
But I had all the investors raised all the capital.
Wow.
And I said, you know what?
So you raised all the capital before you even visited it.
No. So the problem didn't arise. there was a disconnect between my underwriting and the apartments. And it's just one of those things that, like, even when I left the asset, it didn't click in my head. There was only one bedroom, one bathroom in the apartments.
Gotcha. It just didn't click. Interesting.
Yeah.
Total
mistake.
And, you got to multiplize. I'm just trying to think of the lesson there. You got to multiplize on these things for sure. I tell people,
just check all your boxes.
Yeah, I tell people in my boot camps, my students, when you get a place under contract, you take off the hat that says, why do I want to buy this deal? And you put on the hat that says, why do I not want to buy this deal?
Yes.
And that makes you really dig deep.
Yeah.
And it's a big mindset shift because, most people, when they make a big decision like that, they're looking for ways to substantiate, shore up, or justify that original decision. And you can't do that here.
Yeah.
You've got to, otherwise you'll miss things.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's a great lesson. So this is a question I like to ask as well. You're 40? 41. Okay. I've got socks that have a decade on you, but 18-year-old self, knowing what you know now.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd do differently?
Accelerate what I did quicker.
Yeah.
Think bigger, faster.
Think bigger, faster. Guys, I ask the question. I almost always get the same answer. That's what we call a clue. Go bigger, faster. That's always the answer. So, in this journey of yours, did you have any mentors or coaches or anyone that you leaned on, as part of your journey?
To second up what we just spoke about, go bigger, faster, is getting the better rooms quicker.
Getting the better rooms quicker,
the rooms I was in my 20s, I was the young guy making all the right decisions. So, looking back at my real estate career, most people would say, you did great.
Yeah.
But to me, the rooms I was in were patting me on the back, saying you're doing a great job.
Instead of kicking you in the ass.
Yeah. The rooms I left when I was younger, up until probably my mid to late 30s, I walked out feeling great about myself.
You feel great. Yeah, same thing. I'm same, by the way, for me as well.
Yeah. And then you start walking into rooms where you're like, I am doing nothing.
Yeah.
You're like, I got 50 units. And then you walk out of some rooms and you have more units than anyone.
Yeah.
But
then you walk into a room where the average is 2,000 or 3,000 units.
Yeah, and you're like, well, wait, hold on. There are people who own thousands of units?
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
And how did you do that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you want to play tennis, do you play somebody better than you or someone worse than you? You need to get around the people that think what you think is hard is easy. And
yes.
I formed a mastermind a couple years ago. I've kind of let it go just because I just haven't had the bandwidth to deal with it. But there's about 40 or 50 billion in assets in it. It was all the biggest operators in the country at the time. And because I wanted to be around people that thought what I thought was hard was easy. And so I formed this thing, and it was a lot of fun. We did it for a few years. So as part of this journey, talk about I think you've actually talked about one of them already, but any epiphanies, any aha moments you're like, okay, now I get it. Anything come to mind when I ask that question?
I guess an aha moment for me was in real estate. If you're going all in on real estate, there's long goals and short goals that you have to follow. And as you know, on the syndication side, it doesn't pay very well in the beginning.
Right.
So it's a very long-term goal.
Right.
You're basically getting paid on the promote.
You get an acquisition fee is
Sure.
about it. I mean, it's not insignificant based on the size of the deals, but that's it until you pay your investors back their money with a refi or you do a sale.
Yeah.
You get to promote, right.
So more recently, I've been focusing more on we're going to continue to widen that a little bit. So we're going to have very long-term assets, and we're going to be focusing more on short-term assets. So for me, always that was construction. It's fairly quick. The acquisition of the townhomes and splitting is definitely something that we're focusing on shorter. So, I was always very long-term with real estate, but to know that I could also make short-term money in real estate, that was,
that's good.
Opening it up.
That's good.
To making sure that I'm doing both.
Yeah, no, that's really good actually. Because I get people, how do I make a living doing this and all that?
Right.
And
how do you make a living doing real estate?
Right.
Because it is so long.
Right.
You can't go forever without making money to live today.
Right.
We don't want to live above our means and that whole thing.
Some people wholesale, they'll flip stuff.
Yep.
And that's good. But of course, that you're only as good as the last deal.
That's
so,
right.
but you want to do that with you're investing in
Right.
long-term, cash flow. So, yeah.
And I think some people, they fall apart a little bit in real estate because it is slow, so they start doing something else that has nothing to do with the deal.
Right.
I'm sorry, nothing to do with real estate.
Right.
And-
So let me ask you this:
Yeah.
why retail? Why industrial? You just like the area? You have other assets near these, or
Yeah, so it's in that Northwest Arkansas corridor.
okay,
And as far as managing these different asset classes,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a very wide knowledge of construction and you understand how the leases work and you understand a lot of, basically most of the mechanics of real estate, it's fairly similar. They just transfer a little bit.
sure.
As long as you know all that, you could open up to other asset classes very
You got
comfortably.
to find the tenants. You got to find the tenants.
Yeah.
in retail and industrial. But I love flex space. I've never done it, but I
It's
love.
shorter work. Like our multifamily deals, I don't know how you do it or some people do it, but we're on weekly to bi-weekly calls with our property managers.
Right.
And the calls are fairly lengthy.
Right.
And so it's not, hey, how is everything? Good? Okay, bye. That's not how it is.
Right.
It's detailed.
Right.
And we're making sure that apartments are absolutely as full as possible.
Right.
On the retail, we have to put a tremendous amount of work in to get the tenants.
Right.
Once we're full, it's
done.
like, I'll talk to you next quarter.
Right.
Call me if there's a problem.
Right.
So, if the asset stays clean, like physically clean.
Right, you're taking care of the parking lots and
Yeah,
things like that.
what are we doing?
So let me ask you this: talk about one of the centers that you bought. What's the size and what sort of tenants did you end up putting in? Because I've heard that there's a little bit of shifting in the retail space with the tenant demographic, retail tenants.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this market is retail. The market we're in. This is specifically Springdale, Arkansas.
Okay.
So Northwest Arkansas basically goes from Fayetteville to Springdale to Rogers to Bentonville.
Okay.
That vertical row. The industrial flex and the retail vacancy is like 3%.
Wow.
Okay, so what happens there? Retail spots sometimes wind up getting used for not retail. So we have one tenant his name is Mr. Locksmith.
Okay.
Nice storefront. Customers are not welcome there. It is basically being used as a flex space.
Okay.
They need storage for all their stuff.
And it's a retail location. Interesting.
Retail location. So now in retail spots, the industrial's full, no problem.
Okay.
And then the retail is being used both ways.
Interesting.
So it's full.
Okay.
And when there's a vacancy, well, actually what we're doing now is one tenant has too much space, another tenant has too little. We're just swapping them instead of either one looking elsewhere. So what's happening across the board in retail tenants across the country? I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
I just know that we're in a market that is short all
Yeah,
of it.
that's unusual. Yeah, that's unusual where you're. I mean, it's great, but it's
Yeah.
unusual. Okay. So what's next?
What's next? We're going to continue to accelerate. We're going to continue to accelerate taking advantage of the housing shortage, which one way of doing it is we're buying those communities and selling them off individually.
Right.
Which we're doing in Arkansas and Alabama. Arkansas and Alabama, the laws are, I'm come from New York and New Jersey. What we're doing, you'd get arrested for. Creating HOAs on properties is just impossible.
Right.
It takes years. Here in Arkansas and Alabama, both, it's a month.
Wow.
And that's if you're taking your time.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So, we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue looking for larger assets, and we have a nice size $2 million 1031 rolling at the moment.
No, nice.
Which is interesting.
So you need to place your money. So do you have a team? Is it just you? Who do you work with?
Yeah, so I have a partner.
Okay.
His name is Alex.
Okay.
And we have
What role do you play and what role does he play?
Yeah, so we which probably isn't ideal for partners, like we do step on each other a little bit, but he talks to the banks. I don't talk to the banks at all. He used to work for JP Morgan.
Oh, okay.
Very, very intelligent on the
So
lending
he's
side.
analytical.
Very analytical.
Okay.
He knows nothing. No, it's being harsh on him. He knows very little about construction, where obviously that's my eye. So the physical asset itself would be more my main focus.
Yeah, the asset management, the physical asset, the construction. He handles, the finance and that stuff. Oh, that's a perfect match.
Yeah.
That's a perfect match. I mean, the most, successful.
And he's very
teams.
good at actually finding deals.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he's a
Awesome.
sweet.
So he underwrites them, does preliminary underwriting, then you look at them together, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
He has a very good ability with owners.
Oh, good. So,
Yeah, he's
so he's
very-
a good communicator too.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good.
Well, very often, an analytical person is not the greatest communicator, but
Right.
but when they do communicate, it's very deep communication. They're typically introverted, but
Yep.
the best combinations I see are an analytical person with an outgoing person like yourself, and that's my situation as well in every
cool.
partnership I've ever had. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question. Is there, you probably have people hit you up and say, "Hey, you're so successful. How'd you do it?" Is there anything you gift them or tell them to go get, like a book or anything like that you suggest? Anything like that come to mind? I mean, obviously, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but beyond that.
I think, and I know you do the seminars, I think showing up to the seminars is huge.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
various ones that happen throughout the year.
Right.
I think, and not so much for the content that's happening from the stage. I think just being around people that
networking.
are doing it and networking.
Yeah.
I think that's spectacular. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, of course.
Right.
That book changed me a lot.
Right.
And then just, putting it, if you don't put the time and energy in, and actually the other thing is, I think some people that start some boot camps in some of these events, they actually look too big. So you'll get someone who's never touched anything, and all of a sudden they're saying there's $90 million deals for sale.
Right.
And like, dude, hold on a second.
Yeah, right.
Let's take a step back.
Right.
You have to get started small. It's the only way. You're not going to be able to, and maybe you could prove me wrong, but there's a great chance you're not going to be able to raise $30 million. And this is your first time doing it. No one trusts you doing anything until you've done it yourself. Right. This is why we've renovated our own first rental, and we've gone through the whole thing. So, get started nice and small, get started comfortable. Another thing I tell people is stop looking outside of where you live to start.
Yeah.
Look within, for me, it was 20 minutes within my house. You could expand that to an hour if you want.
Yep.
I know Kiyosaki in his book says 2 hours, but stop looking in other markets. You don't even know what you're looking at. Yeah. You are completely wasting your time.
Agreed.
Just keep it tight, start small,
Yeah.
and the acceleration could happen very, very rapidly.
Yeah.
You could start with nothing and in 5 years have 1,000 units, but it does have to be a progress.
Yeah, and you have to do the work. You have to, like you said, you lived on the MLS for a while. Yeah, you have to do the work. Well, listen, brother, I really appreciate you coming in and bringing the little man with you, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Rod, for having me.
You
Appreciate
bet.
it.